interrupted by a Hurricane with that Death Ward. With the Global Silencer, that's the hard counter coming through of Silencer. Doesn't matter even if you decide to go for the BKB, as long as you Global Silence after you see the BKB pop. Mirror Karen's gonna get swapped out. It looks like the maybe he's trying to set up a kill against Shinkodo, but he just blinks out. Also disjoints the Magic Missile. Unfortunately, the Queen of Pain hasn't really been having a good game, and even though Queen of Pain does scale well into the late game because Sonic Wave does pure damage and penetrates BKB, you still are quite a heavily a snowball dependent hero. You want to try to find his only pickoffs and try to escalate from there. We are going to be seeing a paralyzing count, but the Horn's going to be popped out, not actually able to accomplish anything. It looks like we're not going to be seeing a reality come through. Kumo is deciding to go straight into the Bloodstone. Not too sure I agree with this. The Orchid would be much more valuable because it shuts down the Queen of Pain as well as the Abaddon. Also gives you a great way to deal with the Bristleback early on. The Bloodstone build would make sense if you're going for the Sumail build, so had you chosen to not go for any points of Vortex, but because you're playing into Queen of Pain, you're forced to go for Vortex, you really want to go for the Orchid in that case. So you don't want to go for a fighting build and then go for a farming item. You'd be better off just choosing to prioritize and optimize your build by choosing to go all in for either farming or for ganking. So the Orchid actually gives you a bit of access for both because it gives you enough mana regen. You can jump into Flash Farm. Restoration can be taking a death there if you're not too careful. Here comes a zip from Kumo, and Kumo should be then sure this kills with another follow through zip. Migu, that being said, just barely being kept alive by the Vortex coming through from Kumo, especially the Global Silence. Migu actually might be to turn things around. Kumo actually zips himself out as Barker comes into the party. Shinkodo might be doing a fair amount of damage over the Kumo, especially with the Death Wall. Kumo's going to be taking a death there, tries to zip out. Fortunately, the zip just barely able to keep himself alive. Actually popped the Soul Ring to show that zip. Good recognition coming through from Sumo, but unfortunately, from Kumo, but unfortunately Shinkodo just blinks on top of him with that Screaming Pain. Double damage, sure as hell helping. So her cleavage getting bigger for that engagement. Restoration did take that death though, so it's going to be a slight advantage gain for Raven, just because I haven't done anything to control Vids. So Vid's going to be the X factor for the boys in Raven. He's going to have much better late game than the Spectre, especially because he's able to farm faster than the Spectre. Spectre's biggest weakness, aside from a weak laning stage, is a lack of a farming mechanism. So nowadays, carry heroes that they're drafted, if you decide to go for a very powerful hard carry hero, you decide to go for that 4 protect 1 route, you're more likely to see a Deucer or an Anti-Mage, because these are heroes that are able to get involved a lot earlier on. Spectre, she's very powerful if you decide to draft a lineup that can fight early and you go for a very aggressive build in Spectre, because you can haunt a reality into a fight. You really have to play the Spectre's strengths, which is her ability to be present in every single engagement. So you need a team that's going to be very scrappy, that's going to constantly be engaged. Shinkodo could actually be taking a death if he's not too careful. Mirror and Keres decides to commit to this, never mind, just time ups out. Wary of the potential TP rotation, especially since he knows his essential place for the dive side. It's the only way that Shadow Strike would have landed, otherwise he would have disjointed. It's a good recognition from him. Miku actually has a Medallion of Courage, so he's actually pretty farmed as far as the Vengeful Spirit's concerned. We've got a Helm will farm the Barker at any rate. Kumo, because he hasn't really been too active as far as constantly controlling tempo, Stormspirit does have that fallback in the sense that he's a very powerful late game hero, especially if you decide to go for the Bloodstone. Since Stormspirit has such a low turnaround time. Looks like 2 kills actually picked up in 1 lane. Askalicious finds himself a kill against Vids finally. Migu could also be taking a death there. Askalicious should choose to dive this. He's got Vanguard, he's got the Photic Shield coming through, and Free Height. He's got Borrow Time in a few more seconds. He can afford to dive the tower and absorb a few shots. Shinkodo also there. Swap comes through and Migu should be taking a death. He's just buying time for his teammates at this point. Over in the top lane, looks like we're also going to be seeing an engagement as it looks like they're able to find a kill against... never mind, Kumo's able to disengage in time. He's got the poor lightning, he's going to be fine. Restoration now choosing to go for the phase boot, so Vanguard into phase, very old school build. Nowadays, the reason why I say phase into the Earn the Shadows is that basically it has the exact same design philosophy. Earn the Shadows gives you survivability, gives you HP regen through the active soul charge, and because Spectres drafted to play aggressively early on, Kumo duking against Restoration, but Kumo's fine. Restoration's also going to be okay, you've got the Voodoo Restoration and the Vanguard HP regen. Restoration eats a massiss amount of damage, this is the DPS output of the Stormspirit. Kumo actually choosing to prioritize Remnant, would have actually liked to see the 4th point in the Overload. Overload is going to be your bread and butter as far as your damage is concerned. Ukraine, he's just holding onto his gold to go for the Hat and Midas. It's a fairly standard item order coming out from Ukraine. You want to go for Midas on the Silencer to make sure that you stay ahead as far as experience is concerned, and to make sure you're actually able to find farm, because Silencer is quite a farm-dependent 4-position support, even though he's basically run as an old bot. Barker, going to be eating a little bit of damage. Unfortunately, Voodoo Restoration, it counts as activating a mode, so it doesn't actually break the cost of the Silence, so it's actually going to be losing a good chunk of his mana. Kumo could potentially look to just commit to this, because Barker's out of mana. Barker can't actually do anything to turn the engagement around. Kumo just leeching back creep wave for now. Freyheart's also there. Freyheart's going to be the mech carrier for his team. Not too sure I agree with this. The band's actually quite a poor mech carrier, doesn't have the mana pool to afford it anymore. He's going to be eating a fair amount of damage. He's got the borrowed time though, so he's going to be okay. That the Medallion Courage from Migu doing a fair amount of work there. Shinkodo comes in, might be the epic kill against Migu. And Kumo, he does have that soul boost, it turns around the Vortex. Here comes Global Silence, might actually turn things around. They have to try and burst down Shinkodo if they want to try to take these engagement. Not going to be able to do enough burst damage in time. Here comes the Aphotic Shield Restoration. Waddling away to safety, doesn't actually have any mana. So Raven, actually going to be doing a whole lot of nothing, but while that happens, Vids, Space Creator's going to be the call. It's able to knock down their Tier 1 tower, Askalicious. Rotate spot, but the Bristleback Doesn't have any items to really show for it, just has the Vanguard. Most likely going to be seeing the S and Y build coming out from him. Also could be seeing the Crimson Guard. Crimson Guard in this case not going to really be that effective. You need Bristleback to translate to another form of DPS. Barker can be kept alive by the Apollo Shield from Freyheart. Here comes Swamp as Mirren and Kurez goes on Shinkudo. Shinkudo can actually be taken death there, but definitely encouraged with the Swamp. It's such a huge amount of work. Freyheart pops that Borrowed Time, sends Grunt against Mirren and Kurez. Mirren and Kurez, he's got access to the time-lapse though. Vitz shows his face, should be to smack down Barker. Freyheart as well, also going to be taking a death. Kumo's got enough mana regen to run him down. Going to be knocking down that tier 1 tower, and Vitz, timely rotation coming up from him. Every time you've got Metamorph available, you can look to group up and fight, especially now you have access to the Yasha. They find themselves an easy tower. They can actually keep going and knock down another tier 2 tower. Kumo now going to rotate to the mid lane. He actually has his Bloodstone finished. So even though I was questioning the efficiency of going for the effectiveness of not going for an Orchid this game, I suppose Shinkudo hasn't actually been all too great with her position as far as the Queen of Pain is concerned. She keeps blinking in pretty much on her own into the enemy team. So Kumo's great by going for the Bloodstone first. Hasn't really been punished. Would have actually preferred to see him actually just go for the straight up the Sumel farm build. Or because he went for the points in the Overload and the Vortex to help deal with the Queen of Pain at the laning stage, would have preferred the Orchid, so that way you could actually capitalize your items and go straight in. And it still gives you the farming option, because you have enough mana to spam out your Overload. Actually helps you farm more effectively than the Bloodstone build, because you're getting more mana regen. Mana regen is more important than actual mana itself, since the Zip's going to be taking a max proportion of your HP. I suppose you could farm by spamming out the Remnants, but even then the Orchid's usually going to be the much more effective item. The nice thing, of course, about going for the Bloodstone this early on is he's damn nigh unkillable unless he makes a massive mistake. They don't have enough lockdown to control Storm, and because they don't have any kind of lockdown, especially since Anime Saikou drafted 3 other heroes pretty much back to back that don't have any way to control the Storm Spirit, that's pretty much going to cost them the game. They don't have a way to lock down Storm. They have a way to deal with Vitz upon enough burst potential from the Queen of Pain. They've got the abandon to keep people alive if he decides to go for that Sunder. Terrorblade's now finished that Man style, so he's decided not to go for the S and Y, going to the straight Kurokai style build, to the Man style most likely into the Ayaskadi, with the cheeky magic stick picked up in between, just to give himself a bit more survivability. Would have actually liked to see the Ring of Aquila instead of the Stout Shield. You really want a Ring of Aquila on Terrorblade, because since you're going to be spending so much time in the jungle, you're always going to be spamming out the Conjure Image. And so you want to make sure you've got enough mana sustain to keep yourself topped up for these engagements, because otherwise if you're out of mana, you can't keep spamming out the Conjure Image. You actually don't jungle that effectively. So Terrorblade, as far as a jungler, he's very dependent on having enough mana to spam out the Conjure Image. You can also use them to scout. So you can have an illusion to sit back in a potential gank pathway. I suppose because Vid's been given so much space, he's able to farm the lane. He doesn't necessarily need to spam out his abilities as much. But even then, the Ring of Aquila also helps his split push, which is something that Terrorblade's very good at. One of the reasons why you have so many nerfs in the Madness down to illusions in general is purely because of how effective Terrorblade is at split pushing as well as carrying. Askalicious has picked up the Yasha, so he's going for the S and Y route. The reason why I say the S and Y is more effective this game than the Crimson Guard is you already have 2 very beefy core heroes, with the Vanguard being put in the Spectre as well. Restoration can be taking a death if he's not too careful. Looks like they were able to pop the Global Silence. Shinkudo as well also takes a death. Freyheart shows himself a little bit late to the party, well, actually wasn't able to do anything in that engagement. Could be taking a death as Marin the Curious, chooses to commit to him. Gonna pop that Borrowed Time, gonna choose to run him down. Borrowed Time's worn off, here comes a swap, should be taking a death. Kumo's also dealt with a double damage rune. Freyheart gonna be taking a 3 death. Askalicious showing himself late to the party, also gonna be taking a death. Kumo chooses to zip in, goes for the Vortex, should actually run in front of him to ensure that kill, as he actually set up a kill against his own teammate by not zipping in front of him. But I suppose I leave in exchange for a Bristleback, and while it's happening, Vid's also knocks down your tier 2 towers. Vid's going to apply pressure to your tier 3, might even breach high ground while that's happening. They're also going to knock down the tier 2 tower, at least to do a lot of damage. So Anime Saikou, you're put in a very sticky situation as far as experience is concerned. It's going to be about 7,500 EXP lead, going to the hands of the boys in Raven, as well as a 10,000 gold lead. That gold lead's only going to get bigger and bigger, especially as far as the late game's concerned. Unlike the last game, Anime Saikou, they don't have the ace in the sleeve, which is going to be the do, so they don't have that late game assurance spectre. Still doesn't have the Radiance. Nowhere near the Sacred Relics. Restoration being completely ineffective this game, as suspected, partially owing to the fact that he had I suppose he actually had a little bit of a difficult lane. I suppose the Weaver was actually able to find that first blood snowball from there. Fortunately, the Witch Doctor Barker wasn't able to accomplish anything in shutting down the Weaver, especially since they opted to go for dual lanes. They weren't really able to accomplish anything in all 3 of the lanes, so because Anime Saikou lost the laning stage, and because this time the onus of responsibility for closing out the game is on them, they're the ones on the clock this time around, so Anime Saikou can't really rest on their laurels and try to take the game late, because Raven, they've got superior late game draft. Kumo actually chose to go for the Tegan, so no Orchid Malevolence, he's just having fun with it. I suppose he realizes that the only way they can lose this game is if they throw, much like the last game, because as far as the draft is concerned, it favours them. Already put himself in a good enough position, and Kumo getting closer and closer to becoming unkillable. He's actually reached the point where he's unkillable with the 12 charges in the Bloodstone. Even if he does die, he'll be back to life very quickly, so it's the macro advantage of the Bloodstone. It just saves you from having to use buyback. So that alone is enough of a reason to go for a Bloodstone on a hero such as a Storm Spirit, since he's a hero that uses buyback very efficiently, just because you can translate all your mana to a hell of a lot of AoE damage against the enemy team. So it doesn't really matter if you die, especially if you're able to use all your mana before you die, especially if you come back so quickly. Kumo could actually burst down Shinkodo, especially with that Dagon pickup, but he's going to wait until he's alone. So Kumo, being the patient hunter, can't really go on Escalicious. Escalicious is tanking enough that he shouldn't be able to bring him down time. Actually chooses to zip, even though he was invisible, just to try to set up a kill against Shinkodo. Also throws out the Global Silence. Freyheit back himself away. The Global probably not needed. Could I actually set up that kill without it? Because I've actually just walked up to the zipping. But I suppose he found the kill in the end. We're going to be seeing the Orchid limbs coming out from the Queen of Pain, but she's missed her timing window. Orchid's an item you want within the first 17 minutes, otherwise it loses a lot of its effectiveness, because past that point, teams tend to group up. When the Orchid's not that great in a grouped up engagement as the Queen of Pain, unless if you have another form of initiation. But since Shinkodo is the only form of initiation for the line of anime Saikou, puts a lot of pressure on the Queen of Pain. Would have actually been better to go for a Blink Dagger as your first, not a Blink Dagger, BKB as your first item on the Queen of Pain, just to make sure that when you jump in, since you're going to be the one that has to jump in, since nobody else can, you don't instantly die to Kumo, as well as the follow through coming through from Silencer as well as Migu. Vid's going to be popping that Metamorph, looking to barrel down to knock down the mid tier 2, already getting closer and closer towards the Ayascali. With the 3 illusions as well as himself, so 4 illusions down, so 5-man army, it's going to be pretty much an army of 1, and knock down that tier 2 tower without any difficulty. Escalicious trying to hold his own, looks like Horn's going to be forced, but they don't have the Radiance. Here comes the Sonic Wave from Vid's. Vid's going to be taking death, he actually turn around the sun that does so. Escalicious eats a massive amount of damage, Vid's now turns around, taking surprise. While that's happening, Kumo finds a kill in the backline, they're able to bring down Restoration. Vid's still could be taking death if he's not too careful. Miranda and Kyrez forced to pop that time lapse to keep himself alive for now. Shinkodo actually out of mana, ate a massive amount of damage off the back of that engagement. So we're going to be seeing an Aghanim Scepter coming out fairly soon for Silencer. Has finished the Malgus, has it for a while. Miranda and Kyrez actually chose to go for the Drums of Endurance. So he went for very active items as the Weaver. Usually you see Weaver go for items such as the Lincoln Sphere. Weaver's the only hero that could actually use Lincoln Sphere as an aggressive item, because it lets you play very aggressively by having to disregard any CC effect. It gives access to get out of jail free card. But I'm really liking the optimization coming out from Miranda and Kyrez. Mentioned how Weaver should be having a difficult time, but by rotating mid and getting that first blood is able to snowball from there. Especially since against the fairly passive support of Barker, as well as Restoration on the Spectres. The Spectre chose not to max out the Desolate. Desolate would have actually given him a way to go blow for blow against Weaver, and actually even set up a few kills against him if Miranda and Kyrez overcommits. So unfortunately, once again, the mistakes coming out from Anime Saikou. This time though, Raven, they don't have to worry about making mistakes of their own, just because they've got the late game in the bag, unless they pretty much throw 2 back-to-back fights. They put themselves in a very favorable position. Escalicious going to be locked in place by Meager. Well, it looks like Shinkodo actually got blown to pieces, meanwhile by Kumo. Escalicious, he's going to be okay, especially with Freyheit still sticking around. Going to be caught with the last word, though, still caught with the silence. Meager going to be taking death. Death Bolt's going to be enough to bring him down. Barker's going to find himself one, but Barker, unfortunately, getting blown apart by Kumo, so he just zips him down. Freyheit as well has the borrowed time. Aphotic Shield's actually going to be out of mana in a little bit. Kumo can choose to commit to this. Looks like the Frostmourne hungers for him. Escalicious now duking against Kumo, but Kumo, he's got enough mana that he can disengage. He might even be able to find himself a kill as well. Escalicious, one more right click. Going to be enough to be able to bring him down. There we go. Kumo finds it with Ball Lightning. Random Kyrez throws out the Swarm. Just a poke and prod down Restoration in case Restoration chooses to commit to this. Restoration still nowhere near the Sacred Relic. Looks like Random Kyrez going to be eating a lot of damage. Actually going to be a little bit careful. If they've got Vision, then he could be taking a death. Don't have Vision, unfortunately. It looks like Kumo choosing to upgrade the Dagon. We've now got a Dagon level 3. Could actually choose to re-engage and maybe try and bring down Restoration. This Restoration's eating a lot of damage. Dagon charge coming through from Kumo. Looks like Freyheit finally able to miscall down 1. But Kumo's able to bring down his carry. But Freyheit wasn't able to bodyguard him this time. Forced the Aphotic Shield himself. And this is the issue of the Aban go for the mech. You just don't have enough mana. You're constantly spamming out the Aphotic Shield. You're constantly spamming out the miscall. You really can't afford to just blow 225. Even though it's such a powerful item on the Aban. Unless if you decide to go for something like a Soul Ring, but even then you still run into mana issues. So Aban nowhere near as effective a mech carrier as you'd think. Actually be better off if Witch Doctor chose to go for it, or if Witch Doctor actually had enough gold to go for the Arcane Boots. It's a little bit unfortunate in this scenario. If you do want to go for mech on the Aban, you really need a way to compensate for your low mana pool, especially because you're constantly chewing through mana as the Aban. So in that scenario, you'd be forced to go for an Arcane Boots on the Aban instead of Tranquil Boots, and Tranquil Boots into Soul Ring is usually superior on the Aban into the Arcane Boots, just because with the Miscall spam, you need a way to top up your own HP pool. So Tranquil Boots usually fits the bill. Dagon 5, I suppose that's Dagon 4 now picked up over in Kumo, getting closer and closer towards the Dagon level 5, well Vids should be pretty close towards his Ayascali. I think he should actually have it pretty much completed. Never mind, just 1900 gold on him. It still is leading as far as net worth concerned alongside Kumo. Kumo is so big at this point that he can pretty much just go 1v5 against the entire enemy team. And they don't have a way to kill him just because they only form a lockdown. It's going to be the theoretical Awkward that still hasn't been completed over in Shinkodo. They don't really have any kind of hard CC aside from the Paralyzing Cast. And Paralyzing Cast, because it has such a slow projectile speed, very easy to destroy. So the only way Kumo dies is if he makes a massive mistake. Speaking of which, unable to set up that kill against Shinkodo. Shinkodo would have been a blink out time regardless, unless he vortexed him while he was zipping. So you have to keep in mind as a Storm Spirit, you can use abilities and items even when you're in motion through the ball lightning. So it's something to keep in mind when you get access to the Orchid, especially if you're jumping a high mobility target such as an anti-mage or Point of Pain. As you zip towards them, you have to Orchid them. If you don't do that, they should be able to blink out in time. You give them more than enough time to respond. Askalicious, showing himself, he has actually finished the Sun Yasha, choosing to go for the Pipe of Insight, it looks like. Unfortunately, the Pipe of Insight won't help you deal with the Terrorblade. Pipe's actually a very ineffective item purchase as far as EHP is concerned. Mecha's almost always superior because it's also reactive. In this case, because you already have a mech picked up on Freyheart, I can understand the Pipe, but the Pipe doesn't help you win, it helps you stabilize. And you don't really need to stabilize against this lineup, especially since they've got the superior late game. You need an item that will help provide some kind of DPS output, so he actually would be better off choosing to go for a BKB for himself, and it's kind of just sack his team. His teammates, they really need to try and apply pressure over to Mireth and Kira, especially since the Weaver's actually almost got a Desolator, so hasn't finished. Kumo, they already have such difficulty dealing with Storm Spirit as is. They pretty much can't deal with any of the cores of Raven unless they make a misplay, especially since Vids is about 1,000 gold off finishing that Ayaskadi. Looks like Askalicious. That Pipe of Insight, I suppose, does help partially mitigate Kumo's burst potential, but it doesn't help you against the Desolator Weaver. It doesn't help you against Vids, who will be having an Ayaskadi fairly soon. Looks like we're going to be seeing a Roshan engagement, even though they don't have vision. So Raven is so far ahead, they're feeling so confident in their ability to take the engagement, they don't even need the vision over Roshan. Especially since Kumo, he's just buying space for his team. He's got vision of 3 of them. Looks like Hooded Defiance is picked up. He's popped that double damage. He's doing a lot of pressure over the Restoration, who still doesn't have the Sacred Relic. So this is the issue of going for the Vanguard build over Inspector. It doesn't really help you farm. It can help you fight, but if you want to go for a fighting item or Inspector, you need a team that's 24 active. You need to be active yourself. You can't actually afford to just rest on your laurels, especially since he, as far as Lutz is concerned as well, only 89 over Inspector. Inspector has been given a fair amount of space. Dagon 5 going to be picked up on Kumo. And like the recognition, they're actually giving it to Medan Kiras just because he's got the time lapse, and he's actually constantly putting himself in the forefront, so he's applying a lot of pressure and playing quite aggressively. Now that he has Desolator, Desolator is one of the best items on Weaver, since Weaver has a lot of free attack speed from Gemini, so there's no need to go for attack speed boosting items on Weaver until you've capped out your damage burst. So it's very similar to the Gyrocopter. Gyro doesn't want to build attack speed, he wants to build damage, because you've got the flat cannon to amplify your damage output to hit everybody at once. Weaver has the pseudo attack speed steroid of the Gemini attack. And so you're much better off just stacking damage for now. And once you've got enough damage, then maybe you might let's go for something like a Butterfly. Otherwise, Weaver doesn't really do an awful lot with the attack speed. So the Yasha purchase is a little bit wasted, I suppose. It does give you a bit of mobility, but he could have basically just spent that towards the Desolator. So he could have just gone straight for the Ring of Aquila drums into Deso. Would have had the Deso a lot early on. So that would have been about 5 minutes you'd shaved off his Desolator timing. So we could be looking at a 27-minute Desolator, which is absolutely horrific. Because the supports for anime Saikou, they can't do anything to stop that. Looks like Askalicious, he's the only one that's actually doing well for his team as far as net worth's concerned, and he's choosing to go for team fighting items, so he's actually impairing his own efficiency. Had Askalicious decided to go for DPS items or something like a BKB, or even just go straight up for a Basher, so he could try to control Vids, would have actually been a lot better than choosing to go for the Pipe, because the Pipe doesn't give your team anything. He hasn't even finished it. So until he finishes it, doesn't give his team any benefit. Even if he does finish it, fairly minimal benefit. Kumo found himself an easy kill against Restoration. Godlike at this point. Don't think he's taken death in the last 20 minutes. Askalicious is trying to bring down Kumo. But Kumo's fine. He's got ball lightning. You want to, if there's anyone you want to jump on, it's going to be Migro. Speaking of which, pop the Medallion Courage over from Freyheart. Freyheart still has the borrowed time. Global Silence actually doing a hell of a lot of work, especially with the Global Silence. The Coastal Silence also being applied. Kumo stands ground, can actually force the suicide himself, as he's going to be taking death there. Unfortunately, he ran out of mana. So overcommitted, so Barker able to turn that engagement around. Barker unfortunately going to die to one more whackly. Rather than Kiras, he just chooses to dive. He's got a time lapse available, he's got the Aegis of the Immortal. Gonna force the time lapse now, there we go. Weaver's able to disengage in time. Medallion could also be used on Weaver if they were at risk of him dying, but while that happens, Vids closes out a set of racks, gonna close out a second set of racks, now has the Eye of Skadi, he's got more than enough gold to finish the Skadi. And this should be game set and a match for Boys and Raven. This time Raven deciding not to throw in Dive Fountain. Vids saying, okay, objective based gaming, we lost the last game because we messed around. This time, let's not mess around, boys. Let's just try and close out the game as quickly as possible. Dash down their racks, put ourselves in a good enough position we can take the game late. In this case, the game's not even going to go late. Spectre still doesn't have a Sacred Relic. So Spectre, what Restoration really should have been doing is maxing out the Desolate, especially because you know you're against the Weaver, and Weaver will constantly put himself in a position that he's going to be the only unit around. The Desolation will be doing a hell of a lot of work against Weaver, especially since Weaver will constantly get out in your face away from his own creep wave, so the Desolate will prop on him. Now Weaver's squishy enough that the maxed out Desolate will actually kill him very early on, especially when the Sakuchi's on cooldown, which it often was in Medan Kiras. Did overcommit a couple of times. So the maxed out Desolate build has done a lot more work. Kumo, just being Kumo, finds himself another kill against Barker. Zips in, just drive-bys him down with that Dagon 5. Nothing he can really do at this point, even with the Voodoo Restoration active. He's got 2.5 seconds of time inside the Thunderdome with that Vortex, and GG's going to be the call. Shinkudo, he's had enough. Looks like the boys from Raven finally learning from the error of their ways, and this time going for a lot more effective items. Only misplays coming through from Kuma with the inefficient item build, choosing to max out the Vortex. It's a very slight difference, but on a hero like Storm Spirit, efficiency is everything for the first 25 minutes, just because you want to make sure that you're wasting as little time as possible. You've got a very limited window of opportunity for the Storm after the laning stage ends, where you can pretty much set up kills even without items. So that's going to be it. I'm 49, the Master Caster who talks a lot faster. If you've enjoyed tonight's broadcast, you can follow me over on Twitter at 49dodo, or over on Twitch, so twitch.tv/49. Also be covering the boys from Trident Esports for the Underdog Challenge on Monday, as well as the aspect of gaming and New Zealand Nationals. So that's going to be it. So thank you for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more.